Curry's paradox. Imagine someone whispers this to you. If this sentence is true, then Santa Claus exists. It feels harmless, nonsensical even, a childish joke. But it isn't. This is Curry's paradox. A sentence so deceptively simple, it has the power to shatter logic itself. Let's play along. Assume the sentence is true. Then what it says must also be true. Which means, if this sentence is true, then Santa Claus exists. And since we're already assuming it is true, it must follow that Santa Claus exists, even though we used no evidence, no argument, no observation, just words and belief. Now replace Santa Claus with anything. If this sentence is true, then the world ended yesterday. If this sentence is true, then you never existed. And if you accept the sentence, the conclusion becomes reality. Any reality. That's the horror of Curry's paradox. It means that under the surface of logical reasoning lies a backdoor, a hole, where truth becomes meaningless, and anything can be proven. This isn't just abstract philosophy. It threatens real systems. In mathematics, it can destroy consistency, allowing contradictions to flood the system. In computer science, it mirrors the kind of infinite loops and code exploits that crash entire programs. In truth itself, it forces a question. If a lie can prove itself, what even is real? Some try to seal the cracks. Ban self-referential statements. Rewrite logic entirely. Limit the rules and hope the paradox doesn't slip through. But once you've heard it, once you've seen how fragile truth can be, you can't unsee it. Curry's paradox is a quiet infection. One sentence looping forever in the dark, saying just enough to destroy everything you know. So ask yourself, if a sentence could make any lie true, what would it say? Burali-Forti Paradox. Infinity. It's supposed to be the end of counting, the unreachable horizon, the biggest number that isn't a number at all. But what happens when infinity tries to compare itself? That's where things begin to break. The Burali-Forti Paradox begins with a simple idea. Take all the ordinal numbers, numbers that describe position. First, second, third. Keep going. Keep counting. Stack them endlessly until you've built a complete list of all ordinals. Call that list omega, the biggest possible ordinal. But here's the twist. By definition, omega must itself be an ordinal, because it's a position in the order, the last one. But if omega is an ordinal, then it should be in the list, which means it must come after itself. But how can something come after itself? It can't. It shouldn't. And yet, logic says it must. That's the paradox. By trying to collect all ordinals into one perfect set, we create an ordinal so big it can't belong to itself, and yet it must, because it's built from all the others, like a snake swallowing its tail, until it reaches its own throat. This paradox was discovered by Italian mathematician Cesare Burali-Forti in the late 19th century, and it cracked open something terrifying, that even infinity has limits, that some infinities are too big to exist. Where does this nightmare live? In set theory, it forces us to confront forbidden sets, collections so big they tear holes in mathematics. In formal logic, it exposes that not all infinities are equal, and some simply can't be contained. In philosophy, it whispers a darker truth. That structure, even the structure of forever, can collapse under its own weight. To avoid disaster, mathematicians had to rewrite the rules of infinity, create hierarchies, divide the infinite into types, ordinals, cardinals, large cardinals, proper classes, a cage built to contain something that doesn't end. But the paradox remains, quiet, watching, because the moment we try to totalize the infinite, it loops back and devours itself. Burali-Forti's paradox is the horror of building something too big to survive, of reaching for the final number only to find it turns and reaches back. The Bootstrap Paradox. Imagine this. A scientist builds a time machine. One day, someone knocks on their door. A stranger holding a notebook. Inside that notebook are the blueprints for time travel. The scientist reads them, builds the machine, and vanishes into the past. Years later, they hand that same notebook to their younger self. And the loop continues. Here's the question. Where did the notebook come from? Who wrote it? This is the Bootstrap Paradox, a closed loop in time, where cause and effect dissolve. An object, an idea, a person, pulled out of time and fed back into itself. No creation, no beginning, no origin. It's named after the absurd idea of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, a physical impossibility. But in time, the impossible becomes reality, a song that was never composed, just handed back through time, a machine that was never invented, only passed around, a life that was never born, only looped. Every step makes sense, until you try to trace it back and find that there's nothing there. The horror isn't in the loop. It's in the emptiness at its center, an object existing without creation, a ghost haunting the timeline that keeps reviving it. Where does this paradox show up? Science fiction, in shows like Doctor Who or Tenet, where time loops collapse into themselves. Philosophy, in questions of identity and memory. If your thoughts come from a loop, are they really yours? Causality, where time is no longer a straight line, but a circle drawn in ink that never dries. Some say these loops are impossible, that the universe would resist. But quantum theory doesn't always agree. Some models allow closed, time-like curves. Some suggest the loop can hold, as long as it's perfectly consistent. No contradiction, just a forever echo. The Bootstrap Paradox is the sound of time feeding on itself, a beginning that was never born, a future that gave birth to its own past. So ask yourself, if your memories were given to you by someone from the future, and you pass them back, whose life are you living?